Hello, I'm Jennifer Keller, Programming Coordinator at the Westport Library. On behalf of our partner for this evening, Earthplace, I welcome you. Now that the snow is melted, have you noticed poop in your yard? Or have you gone for nature walks during the year and found piles of scat and wondered which animal left it? Well, tonight, Becky Newman, Director of Nature Programs at Earthplace, is here to solve the mysteries. Now, during the program, you can type your questions at any time in the Q&A section, tab right down at the bottom of your screen, and we'll ask as many of those as we have time for today. So without further ado, let's go to the poop.
Hello, everyone. I'm Becky from Earthplace. Jennifer, thank you for hosting us on Talking Scat, I'll say for the evening, because I don't know who's out in our audience. And I will try to talk to you about some different scat that you might find in your yard and maybe some of the differences between the two of them or different types. And hopefully we'll learn something. We only have a limited amount of scat because our request for scat pictures was actually smaller than I thought. All right, guys, so talking scats. Just for fun, there's me and some balloons with talking scat. I have a fabulous rap. If you guys would like to hear the whole thing, you can come visit me at Earthplace and I will sing it for you. But the first verse is scat. It starts with an S and it ends with a T. It comes out of you and it comes out of me. I know what you're thinking, but don't call it that. Let's be scientific and call it scat. It's a piece of scat. All right, guys, just to get us in the mood of talking scat. So right here just looks like some dirty snow. It looks like maybe some dogs went outside and peed. That is actually not what happened here. This was taken in my yard, actually. Not a lot of people have all of the scat, but it is a scat that I see around. It's tiny little droppings of yellow. It's sticky. Sometimes in the summer, you'll actually find it on your car. You will actually never find this scat in the animal's home. And it is a tiny little insect. And yes, this insect is active during the winter. It's not native. They are kept as pets or agricultural in the US. Anyone have any ideas? I know you can't answer me, but here we go. Are you guys ready? And the answer is honeybees. So it explains why they're yellow, because they're eating the honey and pollen, and it's sticky because of the honey. And then, you know, there it is, it's small because they're tiny. The interesting fact is honeybees are active all winter long. They flap their tiny wings and maintain anywhere between 55 and 90 degrees in their hive, or 70 to 90 degrees in their hive. They'll come outside at 55 degrees to go to the bathroom. They will not go to the bathroom in their hive because it will make them sick. I just thought honeybee scat is kind of fun to look at. So our next scat, here we go. And it is obviously a bird scat of some type. It is normally from this type of animal. It's watery, but the white is the urates in it, or the urine. So it's a type of bird with that, and it's gooey. This is actually duck scat, which is different than chicken or turkey or goose. Chicken is normally a little bit smaller. And here we are. There's the ducks. There's two mallards swimming in the pond. Sometimes the duck scat is runny because they eat a lot of water, so it waters it down. Also, if you have pet ducks and they're drinking dirty water or are sick, their poop will be extremely runny. I don't know how many times I can say poop without laughing. My apologies, guys. So here is another bird scat. Looks like this animal might be sick, but it is not sick. We will see it quite often at Sherwood Island. They eat plants, which is why the poop is green. They look like cigars. They vary from green to white to brown. Again, the white in the scat is the urate, or the urine from the animal. So there it is in there. And you guys have figured it out. We see them at Sherwood Island. I'll repeat that. It is our good friend, the Canada goose. And yes, I said Canada goose and not Canadian goose because it is actually called a Canada goose, not Canadian goose. And commonly they're nuisance, so people hire people to try to keep the geese out of their yard because they poop all over. They poop tons in like 10 minutes. They can fill an area. So our next poop is similar, but still different. There are 3 different pictures on this screen of scat. You'll notice that a couple of the pictures have green in them. There is also the white urate or gooey stuff that's on the one in the middle. You can see quite nicely, which again is the urine. You'll notice that all birds have their urine mixed with their feces. So it comes out together and the white is the urine. And this is tubular. And the interesting thing is, no, I forgot what I was saying, guys, that it's circular. It's almost in a snail shape. This is the poop of are you guys ready? We have them all over Earthplace, of a turkey. So we see less turkey scat than goose scat at Earthplace, only because we're more of a forest area than a shore. And then, so I cheated, guys. These are actually from enclosures at Earthplace. You'll notice in the rock pile, there's a pile of white urate. Basically, there's a few speckles of brown in there, and there's actually white on the back of that enclosure. And in that white urate, there are brown speckles or clumps in there, which is actually the feces of this animal. They have more urate than feces. And our next picture is actually not poop from this animal. So I wanted to show you the scat from this animal. And then I'll show you this right there in the center of the picture, right above the stick. There is something that looks like a cat's hairball. That is kind of a hairball, but not from a cat and not completely a hairball. That is not scat, but a pellet from this animal. It is from a barred owl, which we have native here in Connecticut and possibly living in your backyards. I have them living in my backyard. They like to live on the cusp of lawn and forest so that they can easily hunt for their food. They're carnivores. They're going to eat mice and chipmunks and squirrels. So that second picture, I'm going to go back to it, is their pellet. What they do is they eat all the meat. They use their talons to rip apart their feet, hold their food apart, their beak to rip apart their food and swallow it. They don't take the fur, the feathers, or the bones out. What happens is they're going to swallow it. It goes in. And then once they have enough, it's kind of put off to the side and they will cough up a pellet, but not actually scat like the first picture. You can kind of see the white again. It is the pellet. And it's not really puke because it never hits their stomachs. But owls and a lot of birds of prey have whitewash. If you're out walking in the forest or if you have a lot of pine trees in your backyard or front yard, you might notice trees that have a lot of white. Birds like to roost in the same area. And when they're roosting, they might go to the bathroom. So you'll get the whitewash, which is the urate mixed with the feces. Hopefully that makes sense. I apologize. I'm still not used to giving talks for the audience. Can't talk back to me, so I apologize. Moving right along, we have another picture that I cheated at. I know that I've had people from the public email me pictures of this. They found it in their attic. They found it outside the garage, and they want to know what it is. So this is actually from an animal that we have at Earthplace. These 2 animals live with us because they're injured. They are a true hibernator in Connecticut, so they should be waking up right now. Most of the time, they can live for about 20 years. Most of the population dies in the first year because they don't store enough fat to survive the entire hibernation that they go through. And if you've taken any guesses, it is the brown bats. These guys are brown bats, again, native to Connecticut, strictly insectivores. Their scat is different. It's about 1 to 3 centimeters long. It's almost the size of a staple. And it's normally brownish or black and segmented. It's crumbly. If you look at it, if I switch back and you guys kind of peek in at it, you can see that it's sectioned a little bit. So it's crumbly and it's pointed at one end. So that is brown bats, normally not something that you want living in your attic. You want to get them moving out, but they are great to have living in your yard because they can eat 1,000 mosquitoes in an hour, which I personally think is great. I love to watch the bats flying over. I am going to put a side note in there, so I apologize. You'll notice that there is a person holding that bat while it is eating. It is a rehab bat. I'm going to ask for the general public not to touch bats. There are a couple of diseases out there that's still going on. We're still fighting white nose syndrome, which is killing off the bats, and bats can actually carry rabies. So it's not nice or good to hold them. It can put them at risk as well as ourselves. I'm going to move right along to one that I'm shocked that we didn't get any pictures of scat for. Uh-oh. All right, guys, I apologize. It didn't save for me. I had mouse scat. No one sent in mouse scat for us, except I thought it was important for us to talk about because it is commonly the one that's in the house, the one that we want to get rid of. And it's nice to know we have it because if we have a mice infestation, there's probably more stuff going on in the house. They could be eating the wires. A mouse scat is 3 to 6 millimeters long. It's granular, again, kind of like the bat, but black in color, tapered ends, and it just really looks like small grains of rice, except in the color of black. I know I'm grossed out if I see them around or in my house. Hopefully we don't see them around in different houses. And I will move along. I apologize that the picture did not come through. So moving right along. Now I have this picture up. It's a couple of different pictures. Again, there's three pictures in here. I'm sorry, I lost my screen for a moment. There are 3 pictures in here, and a couple of people might guess that this is probably one of 2 animals, and I'm going to tell you the difference. It is a mammal, but it is a smaller mammal than maybe the one you're thinking of. It is the bunny. So part of the reason we can tell that it is the bunny is because it looks like Cocoa Puff, especially in that one picture. You'll notice that it's brown and Cocoa Puffy. It is rabbit poop or scat can go between the size of a green pea and a chickpea. So from just little round balls, they can be tan to dark brown. They're normally hard and dry. So if you crack them open, not that we should be playing with poop, but if you crack them open, you can normally smell alfalfa or hay or grass. They're actually a great fertilizer for your garden. I actually have pet rabbits, and I can put their scat straight into my garden bed because it won't grow weeds and it doesn't need to be decomposed prior. A lot of people have these in their yard and sometimes they're confused with another mammal, but they'll be under bushes. And you can see in the one picture that it is completely dried out. Moving on to the one it looks like. So you can see the picture of the rabbit in this picture on the bottom is actually a juvenile rabbit that is old enough to be out on its own, but was brought in for rehab. It was actually abducted by its mom. So really we want to keep the animals out where they belong. But I have more scat that looks kind of like the deer scat or like the bunny scat, but it is actually, I told you, it is the deer scat. And part of the difference there, if you look at the picture of the pellet droppings, they're not round, they're more oval. They look like raisinets in some way. They are normally browner than the bunny poop or the bunny scat. They're in, sorry, I lost my train of thought. They're normally in piles, and you'll notice in the middle picture, it looks like a clump that could be misinterpreted for another type of scat. That deer actually had a lot of green, a lot of fresh vegetables in its diet, or greenery, habitation. Herbery is what I'm looking for. So it was super moist, so it clumped together. So you can either have the pellet droppings or the clump of deer scat. But again, notice that they're not round, they're oblong. And that is one of the differences between the deer and the bunny. All right, guys, I apologize. I'm moving quite quickly, but here we go. There is another scat. Looks like it could be a couple of different things. I can tell because I know what they were and where they were. You'll notice in this scat, there might be a little piece of internal organs in the picture in the snow. There might be a little bit actually in the yellow as well. This scat comes from the fabulous fox. The picture that is kind of blurry is actually a fox running through my backyard, just for proof that they are actually in our backyards. But I'm going to go back to the scat. The fox, it's normally about 2 to 3 inches long. It's smaller than a coyote's. It can have bones or fur or feathers, and it's normally twisted at an end. You can notice it kind of at the end of the picture in the snow. There's 2 ends that are twisted. It's normally about 1/2 inch wide. The other thing that's interesting is fox scat has a distinct smell about it. If you guys have ever smelled fox out in the wild, their scat smells similar, so you can kind of tell by their pheromone or their scent what it is. The other thing is foxes like to poop on objects. It helps mark their territory, so you'll find their scat on a rock or on a fence post or a tree stump because they're trying to mark their territory. It's not always on the ground. The picture of the scat that is on the yellow, it is actually a curb in a park that the fox scat was on. So, the fabulous fox. And just because I get these pictures commonly in my yard, I have a feeling most of you know what this is. This is bigger than the fox scat, but it doesn't necessarily have to. This scat comes in all kinds of different sizes. It will not have any fur or feathers in it. It normally has a consistency of Play-Doh, and it really depends on what we feed our furry friends. So dog scat looks very similar to coyote and fox scat, but it'll vary more in size because everyone's dog is different. And it normally, I shouldn't say it won't, it normally will not have the bones, the fur, or the feathers in it that fox can have. Again, because we're not feeding our pet dogs different food. So there you have it. There's my cute dog. In trouble because he's on the couch. This one we got lots of pictures of, and it's a common animal, although a lot of people are not sure they have them in their yard or don't necessarily want them in their yard. You'll notice that we have one that's on the pavement. The middle bottom picture was actually taken at the Bronx Botanical Gardens, so they're there. And then there was one on a gravel path. The one to the left of your screen is on a boardwalk at Earthplace, and the one to the right of your screen is actually on the Universal Access Trail at Earthplace, which is the hard-packed handicap trail, stroller-friendly trail, not while the snow is there. But this guy is pretty easy, I think easier to identify than most because they commonly have more fur in their poop than the fox. It is actually larger than the fox. It could be 3 to 4 inches long. It's tubular. It has one pointed edge. It is also rope-like. And again, it'll have the bones, furs, and feathers. And here it is of our neighbor that runs through the yard and makes lots of noise, which is the coyote. Again, so if we look at the coyote scat versus the dog scat versus fox scat, you'll notice that the fox is smaller, a little less animal parts in it, but definitely animal parts in it. And definitely fur in the coyote scat. All right, guys, I apologize again. I'm talking super fast. But here is number 3. This is actually one that was shared with us on our Facebook page and was located in the person's backyard. And you'll notice that in the lower left picture, you'll find some meat in the picture. It looks like maybe some bugs or a small mouse. In this scat, it's normally 2 to 3 inches long. Again, tubular, but black. You can find undigested berries. It's sticky. I've also rehabbed these guys. Their poop is disgusting and it smells bad, partially because they're omnivores. So they are eating the meat and the berries and it goes straight through them. And they'll eat your trash because they are nothing more than the trash panda, Mr. Raccoon. And you can find their scat in your yard. They will normally, if they're living in an area, they try to go to the bathroom all in the same space. That doesn't mean that they will, but they normally try to. But they are omnivores, so they'll eat anything, and their poop will vary on what they ate or what they were able to find. Sometimes you can find part of a shellfish or a crayfish in their scat if they were able to find one. And then I have one picture of scat left. Again, I apologize, it was short, but I didn't have lots of pictures that were shared with me. So this one right here, it is actually a large scat. That is an adult hand that it is compared to. It can be 5 to 12 inches long, 1.5 to 2 inches wide. It's normally tubular with a blunt end and a slight taper. People don't think we have them in Westport. I know that we've seen them around the Westport Western Health District. I've also gotten pictures of scat of this animal a few years back in my email trying to be identified. And they are moving south to more and more habitat that we're losing, but it is nothing more than the black bear. So they are omnivores. You can commonly find berries in their poop as well. So a lot of things with looking at poop, you look to see what you can find undigested in their poop to figure out A, what they ate and who they were. One scat that was not shared with me that I thought about looking for and sharing was that of a squirrel, because I know most of us have them in our yard and we might have squirrel scat in our yard. I haven't found them, but I know I have squirrel scat. I know I have squirrels, but I haven't found the scat. The scat actually is small and tubular, but the issue with squirrel scat, and probably the reason we didn't get any, is squirrels just go to the bathroom while they're on the move. So there's normally not in a pile. You'll just find random squirrel scat all over, if that makes sense. Are there questions from the audience? I'm sorry, guys, I went super quick.
Do not apologize for that. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we do actually have a question. Oh, and we have a big thank you from our audience so far. Actually, Becky, I would like to know, so at one point in my life, I remember reading something that male turkeys and female turkeys poop differently.
They do, and I meant to say it. So male turkeys will turn, their poop is more like a J, and a female turkey is more like a snail or a spiral.
So the one that you showed us was the female turkey. Because it was
Yes.
more like a snail spiral. Okay. Now,
Yes.
do any other animals poop differently depending on gender?
Normally not. It might be a little bit in size, but normally it's kind of all the same. And with the turkeys, I'm guessing it's with the way that they lay their eggs and go through that. And it's interesting, the person that sent me the turkey picture, she was like, it's a chicken, right? It's a chicken. And I was like, nope. It's the turkey. But you know, and it's interesting, I took a picture and I didn't share it, but I took on the platform at Earthplace down by the pond, I found whitewash or bird scat, which was white, but it was different than the birds we had because it had berry seeds in it. So that would be part of the reason you find the difference between a songbird or a raptor.
And speaking of raptors, since you brought them up, we see turkey vultures and black, I think they're black vultures all the time, right?
We have both.
Yeah. Do they leave big chunks of things too?
No. So vultures do not puke up pellets, and it's not puke, so I shouldn't be using that word. They don't cough up pellets. They actually consume everything and they'll just poop it out and it becomes scat. And interesting, owls, so I showed you guys the owl pellet, but the owl pellet is the only one that we can actually dissect and find out what the owls ate. Falcons and hawks also cough up pellets, but we can't necessarily dissect them because they will just have the fur and feathers in them. Their bodies break down the bone, so there's no coughing it up or pooping it out.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay, well,
and you know, it's interesting. I'll be honest, guys, I thought about going in and taking some pictures of turtle poop because turtle poop can kind of look, or some reptile poop can look similar to bird poop because it's very whitish and in piles.
Okay, great. I'm trying to think if there are any other animals that I've seen lately that you didn't cover, but are there any other animals in the area that we weren't able to cover? And is there a place for people watching to send in photos to you still?
So I will happily take pictures of scat and I will actually put them in my docket for future, right? But so you can email me at b.newman, Newman, @earthplace.org. Or you can find me on the Earthplace website. One scat that I would say that we didn't have that I was kind of shocked by, and I looked on my deck in the last couple of days because I know I had them, was opossum. Because they're the omnivore, similar to raccoons, but we're not going to find seeds and such in their poop. Their body is able to digest it. And I talked about squirrel scat. Birds I kind of had to put in a class of their own.
That makes sense.
Right, like, well, because their poop is all mixed with their urine. It's not like mammals who pee and poop. I don't believe I'm being recorded saying that. Where mammals pee and poop separately, birds go at the same time, which is the same as reptiles. That's why they have the white color, the urate mixed into it.
Okay, so if we see like snake poop someplace, that's going to be obvious or not?
It's going to have like a white.
Okay.
But it's going to be more chunky. Chunky than like the whitewash of a bird.
Okay.
And most of the time it'll be on the ground, although there are a few arboreal snakes, but they poop less than the birds because a lot of reptiles, remember that they're cold-blooded, so they don't eat as often. They use the sun to generate their heat. So like our snakes at work eat about once a week. Our big guy, our 12-foot snake, eats about once a month. So doesn't poop daily or weekly for that matter.
Great. Well, I want to say thank you. If anybody has any questions, you can type them in really quickly. Frank says, thanks, Becky. Great presentation. And I just want to thank you for sharing the scoop on the poop, Becky. I had to say it. For more nature information, check out the Earthplace website, earthplace.org.
Well, Ed, hold on. Can I interject? Maybe
Absolutely.
if you learned anything from the scat, you should join us for nature trivia on April 22nd. You'll have an extra hand in it.
Oh, got it. Great. So the Westport Library website also has resource guides about nature and what could be roaming in your backyard. And remember to check out both of our websites, earthplace.org and westportlibrary.org, for future programs and those that have already been recorded. And Becky, thank you so much. You know what? Honestly, I love the fact that we just had a whole program on poop.
Anytime. Maybe next year we'll do it again with more photos.
Great. Maybe we'll be able to do it in person.
Ooh, better yet. Maybe we can go for a walk looking for it.
Thank you all so much for joining us tonight.